Welcome to another kind of co-taped episode thing that we're filming. Kind of like this is like a different, same version of what we did with Cody Gardner. And ironically, we have another coach from Utah today. We have Abe Poduska with us. He's the DC at Provo and Utah. Coach, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, Coach. I appreciate you coming on. As I said, kind of as we talked before we went, turned on, I'm not live, but started recording. So, like I said, I appreciate you coming on. But before we get started, and you kind of mentioned that you'd been in other states before, um, can you kind of go through your background at how you ended up at Provo?
Yeah, I started coaching high school football as a freshman O-line coach at Clovis West High School. I played high school football in Clovis. Never thought I would leave. Was a varsity offensive line coach and teacher at Sanger High School before moving to Utah, and started as the O-line coach here at Provo High 6-7 years ago now. And after a year of O-line, there was a need at D-line. So I switched sides of the ball and loved it. And now I'm the defensive coordinator. Just finished my third year as defensive coordinator.
Awesome, Coach. And you kind of mentioned that you kind of were like always an O-line guy, and you kind of switched to defense and kind of fell in love with it. What was that kind of process initially like for making that switch?
It was sad at first, honestly, because O-line, I still argue, is the best position group to coach. They're just weird and fun, and I've never coached a group of O-linemen that I haven't bonded with quickly. They're just a fun group, but it's also kind of cool switching sides and knowing what bugs those guys. So as a D-line coach for a couple of years, D-line guys are also weird, but they're a little skinnier sometimes. So I think that takes out some of their life experiences that the O-line guys have. But definitely it was good to know some of those things that make it tough on an offensive line. So I immediately loved movement up front when I was a D-line coach, always trying to get our guys moving and never know where they're going to be, where they're going to line up, a lot of shifting right before the snap, that kind of stuff. And then moving to defensive coordinator, I have relied a ton on my assistant coaches with things that are not related to the box, because that's just where I lived for so long. But my secondary coach, Timon Marshall, amazing, best secondary coach I've been around. Kevin Norman's another secondary coach. Just these guys help me out all the time. And then the best D-line coach, I think, in the state is Coach Joe Tuha, who he's never arguing for the guys, like he'll let everyone argue about players, and then where he gets guys and just turns them into studs. So just really blessed with amazing staff, and it's a real group effort here at Provo High for sure.
Well, that's awesome, Coach. And like I said, I appreciate you coming on. And today, Coach is going to talk about some exchange blitzes they do at Provo. I kind of like normal. I'm going to kind of get out of his way, make some bad witty jokes here and there, and occasionally ask some questions. So, Coach, I'll kind of let you get started. I know you wanted to start with the playbook installs, kind of show it before we get to film. So, Coach, the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's been a progression over these 3 years that have really ended with the last two. We're experimenting and really trying to get better at how we implement simulated pressures, exchange blitzes. My first year as defensive coordinator, we had a young team, and it wasn't even on our radar. We were pretty simple with our blitz packages, too simple for sure. But here's just our movement stuff. I'll go through this real quick because I think this is, nothing new here, but this is the foundation of everything we do starting up front. And I call things in, hand signals from the side, and I tell the D-line first, then linebackers, and then secondary. And my secondary coaches will often signal stuff in, or they'll be communicating with our secondary guys. Most of the time they call their own coverages based on formation. But that's how the calls work. As the kids look over to me, they're getting the line call, then the linebackers, then the secondary. So just normal underfront. These are the way we term it, command calls, where I'm commanding by that call what each person's going to do. So these are just obviously the fronts. We've messed with numbers, and then we've also my Coach Tuhad now likes just over under that kind of stuff. He said it's what the kids have learned, so we're going to go back to that. But this is where things get away from just normal alignment. So 2-eye, we've got, it's obvious there, but we can tag any front with movement by giving an angle call or a slant call. If I say over, angle, weak, angle, those two inside guys, the tackle and the nose, they understand that now I'm talking to them, and they are going to angle or slant in that direction. So this one's a slant, which tells all 4 down linemen, where if we base out of a 4 down look, we do have a nickel, like a tight front that we use as well, and we don't use the movement as much there. But here's angle, tells the 2 inside guys what to do. And if I tag something with a slant weak, we could line up over slant weak, under slant weak, strong. It tells all down linemen that they're now moving in that direction. And what that does is that frees us up to be pretty multiple with our blitz calls, because now the next install, we add these one-word blitzes. Add the commands. So now the call from the sideline would be under Mike. Mike hears his name in the call. He's blitzing through his gap assignment. In an underfront, he's got a gap, so that's the gap that he would blitz into. Over Will, D lineman here over. They line up in a traditional overlook, and the Will hears his name. He's just got to know what gap he's responsible for, and he blitzes through that gap. And these are drawn with no movement up front. Sam hears his name. He's an outside player. He's an edge rusher if I call him on a blitz. Over angle weak, will show Mike. So one thing we added after we would add a command blitz for one backer is we can also tag a show onto that. So if the will hears the show right after his name, if he sees that call, then he knows that he's showing in his gap assignment. This is angle weak, over angle weak. So we line up in an over front. Angle tells the 2 inside guys they're going. The Mike hears his name. He's blitzing his gap assignment. It's on the linebacker to understand. And they've been really good about this. We just drill it. Linebackers need to understand if it's angle weak, this nose is going to end up taking A gap. If you heard your name, you're now responsible for B gap. That's where you blitz. So it's pretty simple to end up with a lot of crossing blitzes where the linemen don't even have to pay attention to what's happening. They just need to know, how do I line in an over front? If it's an angle, which way am I going? And then the backer's job is to blitz off of that. And then the next progression for us as a defense was to add. So now we went beyond just showing. So we could walk up in the same look, the mug look here with 2 A gaps. I think in the first year, we might have walked up 2 guys, but we never dropped anybody. We just weren't there yet. And we could show the Mike and bring the will, if we only wanted to bring 5. But the last 2 years, we've made an effort to bring in the simulated pressures, which are dropping these traditional rushers into coverage. And so those are all just tagged on there. So here the call would be 33, which tells our tackles where to line up. Mike Will are blitzing because they heard their names, 33 Mike Will. And then we add in there double drop. And the double drop tells both these guys they're dropping. If it's just one drop, so only one of my hands goes out and signals the drop, then that's always for the weak side guy. So that's what it looks like here. We've got, I've drawn these up where here's 2-eye, Mike, Will, double drop. Now the tackles line up in their 2-eye. Mike and Will are blitzing through their assigned gaps, and the ends, because it's a double drop, are dropping out to their assignments.
So to me, it looks like a lot of this is, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like it's very heavy linebacker dependent on them knowing how to adjust, and it's more simplified for your D-line.
Yeah, the D-line don't need to worry about where the backers are blitzing. There's one call where they exchange, where I just add an X onto it. So if I want to go over Mike X, the Mike and the D lineman in front of him exchange. assignments, but that's again on the linebacker to go tap them on the butt and say, you're going this way, I'm going that way. If they need that.
Yeah.
But most of the time the linemen see it and they understand that they're now going to just switch gaps. But yeah, we definitely put it on the linebackers. They're the ones that communicate anyways for the defense. So it's their job to make sure those linemen understand where they're going or that they understand where the linemen are going. So we can just let those guys play. Doesn't always have to be a double drop. Here's over, will, drop. So the defensive front's in an over front. We're going to bring the will through his gap and drop the end. Over, will, drop. And the first year we did this, last year, we had some really athletic DNs, which we did this year again too. But one of the things that I learned that we're really just getting better at is repping these guys on their drop assignments. The first year it was kind of exciting, and I got the kids all pumped up, like, you're going to drop into coverage. Like, are you ready to get a pick? Talking to the DNs. I even lied and told the interior guys that they were going to get to drop, because they're, part of me was like, we might drop a nose guard back into the, blitz the mic and drop the nose and see if they, throw a screen pass at them or something. But we never got to that point, and I have never wanted to. But the kids get so excited because it's like, sweet, I'm going to drop out and, get to pretend I'm a linebacker for a little while, go out and make some plays in space, which the DNs, that's kind of exciting for them.
Yeah.
But we really, our install in the off season, we definitely rep this stuff, but I did not give it the time in indies with drills, getting them ready. So I'll show you some clips of just ends dropping without a real good idea of what they're doing. And we've gotten better at it.
Good.
So that's kind of the progression in the installs, where we started with movement up front. And then the next layer of complication is to add a backer tag. So over mic, just send the mic right through his gap. Then the next step was adding that over mic show will go. Now we're going to walk the mic up and he's going to drop back and the will's going to go. No dropping linemen. It's still just traditional blitzes. And then we finally got to the point where we can add in these non-traditional guys dropping. So let's get to some film. Okay, so I've got these playlists, and they get longer as we go because I'm not going to spend much time on just the line stuff. But here are some clips of just line movement, no backers blitzing. So here it's 22, so we should have tackles lined up, head up. Deuces or 22 tells our interior guys to line up and then angle strong. And then break is a tag for our weak side end. So right here's an example of command calls where I can tell these guys up front what to do individually or in groups of twos with those tackles without involving any linebackers. So we should see movement here and then a break from our end. That tells him to come inside. So just an example of some of that. This one is over, so we should be lined up in an over front, angle weak. So we're lined up in the 3 technique to the strength. Angle weak tells our tackles to come across back into like an under front. Essentially, we're going to line up in an over, and now we're stunting into an under front. And there's no linebackers attached to this at all. And this game, this was our big rival last year, and we found a home for one of our great kids that we needed to get him on the field. And so I put him as the other defensive tackle. This guy's at Air Force right now. He's just an amazing D lineman. So we have this big bruiser here, and then Tui's our fast kid. So there are a lot of times where this is his first game playing D-line. So he's not always angling in the right direction. So we lined up in the over, and then Jimmy for sure is doing it right. Jimmy right here is our 3 technique is going to angle back inside. And then like you mentioned, our linebackers, Mason, the linebackers lined up over his gap assignment based on alignment, but he knows it's angle weak. He knows that Jimmy really is responsible for A gap and he's responsible for B gap. So you can see him start working right over to his gap on his reads. But you can line up still in that traditional over front, and then your linebackers need to make sure that they end up in the right spot. Oh, hold on. Click the wrong button. Last one for just the linemen. The rollout or the reach blocks make this look make Jimmy look faster than he is. He's super fast, but we're lined up in an over front and we're angling here.
And that's just a bad life choice for that offense.
Yes, they weren't ready for him to come inside as they worked left. So that's just some examples of the movement up front. And then here are some examples of movement up front. Now we're adding the command blitz. So we're not to the simulated yet. This view's better. So this is 22 angle weak. That's the call for the front guys, for the linemen, 22 angle weak. And then we're tagging it with a will. So here's my will backer. He needs to understand what gap is his after the angle happens. And he works into his A gap. Here the call is over break. Break tells this defensive end. Let's make it where you can see what I'm saying. So break is going to send that guy into B gap. The tackle, the nose guard already has A gap. So if I tell the will to blitz, the only gap left, the gap he's responsible for is the C gap. This view's a little choppy here, but here's my will backer. It was over break. So over break takes care of A gap because we're in an over front. B gap's taken care of because I just stunted my end into B gap. The linebacker understands that. When he hears his name, he goes, okay, coach wants me to blitz. My gap assignment is off the edge. If we didn't have a break on, then Dallin would be lined up right here in B gap. Here's a different front. This is 2I up front, so 2 inside shades. We want those guys to angle strong, and we're bringing the will. The will backer understands that this I gap is the I shade, this 2I. This guy's not going to be there after the snap. He's angling out. So instead of blitzing through B gap, he's going to cross and come into A. Okay, then as we progressed as a defense, we were able to show linebackers. So now we've got, this is our nickel front. So the jack linebacker is our weak side outside linebacker. So here we have Jack show, Mike and Will go. Here's the jack. He's showing, trying to draw the attention of this guy. And our Mike and Will are both going to go. Jack, show, Mike, Will. That's all I have to call in. They all know who's showing and who's going. And it rattled the quarterback just enough. So here's the Will. Mike and Will both heard their names. They're going through their gaps. The nose guard comes free. Puts some pressure on and forces the tough decision. So still no dropping, but we're now showing linebackers. Here's a real simple one we used a lot, just showing the Sam off the edge and dropping him back. Maybe trying to force like a hot read by the quarterback, which we get right here. He sees the Sam walked up, checks, and then we just drop him back into coverage.
Now, do you do a lot of this on like obvious passing situations, or do you kind of mix it up?
We mix it up. We'll walk up Mike and Will and A gap for run blitzes as well, and we show blitzes all the time, whether it's running down in distance or not, because we just work on these linebackers getting their reads as they're dropping back from the line of scrimmage. And a lot of times on a run play, they end up, when the ball snapped, they're a yard deep and they're right there to make the play, make their reads. I don't know if the end zone view is good on this one. Yeah. So here's the Sam. All we have is over, Sam, show. All right, here the call is nickel up front. The jack's going to show, and the Sam's going to blitz. So you can see our jack linebacker right here. Here's our Sam. Sam linebacker is going to blitz. End zone view kind of shows us what happens. And this week this is one of our DNs, really fast guy, usually much quicker than the big old lineman he's going up against. So by showing the jack here, we make sure that even in our nickel front, because we play this tight front, that they can't double down here. So you can see the tackle gets occupied with our backer, and that frees up. It makes sure it's a one-on-one for our fast guy against their big guard. So we can tag rovers and corners, or safeties and corners as well. So right now it's Mike show, rover go. So here's our Mike backer. He's going to start creeping up, but we're really bringing the rover.
Ooh, there you go. Now, do you ever worry that like some of these calls get a little too wordy?
Only on tempo teams. I definitely worry about it.
Okay.
Like we talk about it all the time. And my first year, I even tried cards, but I'm not willing to sacrifice the ability to be so multiple where, I can tag essentially any defender and bring them, or, tell defensive ends what to do without, because what I've done is one-word blitzes. I still will do one or two of those a week sometimes where it's like all-star. Everybody knows what that means. We all know the coverage is attached to that one-word blitz. It might be bulldog, whatever. But I have just found those get screwed up all the time. Like, it's so rare that one of those gets run where everybody does what they're supposed to do. Yeah. But these kids have a million reps at break. The defensive ends know what break is.
Yeah.
They don't need to know that the Sam is blitzing off the edge outside of them and that they're really sucking down the tackle with their inside break. So, yeah, I do worry about it. And we have been limited at times with tempo teams, but we know the teams that run the tempo. And so, we do some more of those one-word blitzes, or we give our kids, if you see this formation, you're going. Don't, I might not have you tagged, but you've got to go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question because that's something we talk about a lot. but it really is pretty quick. It's like as quick as you can say it.
Yeah.
Under the strong Mike Show Rover. Like that's how fast I can call it in.
Okay.
And that you just got, and the other issue is eyes. We have punishments during practice for not getting eyes over. My coaches remind me to get on the sideline and call the plays in during practice, that sometimes I can't be out there yelling it because of just what you said. We need reps at kids looking over, getting the call under pressure, and and quickly turning back to the offense and being able to figure out where they need to go. Okay, here's one with the corner. Jack Show, Will X, corner blitz. So looking at a pre-snap, here's the Jack. He's showing, trying to make sure that this tackle doesn't look out at the corner. Jack Show and the Will and the lineman in front of him are doing a little cross. And the corner blitz gets there. But from the end zone view, you can see what the show does, even though it's not a great show. So the coaching point on these bluff rushes, these guys need to get at least one really good rush step in. If they do what happens here. So if you can see the Jack here, he really doesn't bluff an edge rush much. We get lucky that the tackle turns back inside instead of looks out. But he's supposed to really make sure that that tackle thinks he's coming. So anytime somebody's showing or dropping, they should be taking at least one really good step. All right, let's get to the sims. I felt like it made sense to me to show it that way, just to work through the progression that we've come through as a defense. That after we were able to show effectively, walk guys up, drop backers back without ever messing with dropping linemen. Once our linebackers understood those concepts, now we can really get creative with what we do. So here we go. These are our simulated pressures. And for me, I'm honestly like, I look up definitions because I worry about sounding like an idiot because I feel so new to defense. I'm like, exchange. I call them exchange blitzes for the kids so they understand, like, you're a defensive end. You're exchanging your role with that of the linebacker who's blitzing. But sim pressures, the big idea is we're looking like we're bringing 5, 6, 7, but we're really going to bring 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And still be effective because we're creating matchups. We're getting tackles to set to nobody. Okay, 33 tells our tackles to be wide in 3 techniques. Mike, Will are blitzing, double drop from the ends. From this horrible grainy view from the side, you can see one of the interior guys gets in there. You can see the ends dropping out. So we have trips here. So it's a little scary bringing a backer that would be involved in working to this number 3 receiver. And now we're asking a defensive end to drop out and get his eyes there. Hopefully we get there quick because we're just trying to take away slants and quick routes here. So here's the end zone view. Here's our 33. Both tackles are outside shade. We're walked up in this mug look, double A gaps with our linebackers. So right now it looks like we're bringing 6. And if you pause it right here, you can see a tackle setting out to an end who's now dropping. So we got rid of 1 O lineman. Same thing here. We've got a tackle setting to this guy. So now we're left with, inside here, we've got 4 guys. and 3 blockers. And we're still dropping guys into coverage. Pretty confident that we're going to force a quick throw because we've overloaded them in the middle now. And on this play, the guy that gets turned loose, is you can know what protection's coming, right? Is it's a slide protection? Maybe we're going to get an A gap run through and a backer, but they're in empty right now, so it should be big on big. Just 5 down. Everybody's going to block the gap, the guy in front of them. And this tackle sets out. This guard sets down to the A gap, and that frees up our tackle. This one's an under front. We're going to show the Sam show, rover, blitz, and we're dropping an end. So our rover is walked up right now. And our end ends up getting the interception. It's a lot easier to see here. I swear we have the worst cameras.
No, Coach. No, you don't. No. You can complain about your camera angles and your no. Don't even. I've been at some place. Don't even get me started. I've been at schools where they record the entire game in between plays and not the actual play. Because after about play 3, they got messed up and went back and forth. Don't talk to me about film right now.
We are very blessed to have this angle we're looking at now. Then this one's good. Our sideline one gets grainy, and I'm looking through my reading glasses here. But so we've got Sam showing. The rover's going to blitz, and we're going to drop this defensive end. This defensive end does a good job of getting off the ball and engaging for 2 steps and then getting the heck out of there. So we know that this tackle is going to set to him. And this one, we only drop 1. It's not a double drop. So the rover gets home coming off the edge. And the quarterback ends up throwing it right to our dropping defensive end, who gets a penalty for throwing the ball. But we got him so excited about dropping that it was kind of hard to rein him in when he got the interception. But there's plenty of time to call this in. This one's, it's only dropping 1 guy, but when you bring guys and show guys, when you event and drop far less frequently than you show, it can catch them off guard. This is another pretty simple one. We're just going to bring the mic and drop the end. So it's an under front. The call is under mic drop. They're lined up in an under front. The mic's going to blitz through his gap assignment. And the drop call tells our bandit, our weak side end, that he's dropping. And I like these to trips where if I feel like they're going to try and run some slants, the backside of trips, or screen game us over there, it's nice to be able to bring the inside backer away from trips.
Yeah.
Because before we were dropping guys, I rarely, if ever, blitzed our inside backer away from trips because I just felt vulnerable, to any like back out type of stuff. You're bringing your guy that's going to cover that. So here they don't throw over there, but I love Bryson's eyes. So if you watch our end dropping, he looks out at the receiver to see what route he's got. If it's a slant, something coming in quick, he's going to sprint right out there and try and get involved. He looks, there's nothing coming. The guy's going vertical, so now he's just going to look to get involved. And they can't slide the protection down because our defensive end here from the end zone view, they need to set to him. So now you've got a tackle setting to no one and a wide open A gap. And I know they've got their back working to A gap, but that's a matchup we want. We don't want them sliding for that. So we didn't lose anything. We still covered the back out. If they want to send the back out that way, we can still buzz this guy out to help on quick game, backside of trips, but we can still bring pressure. Okay, here's a very similar situation from this year. The call is over, will, drop. Over for the lineman, Will's going to blitz, we're dropping the end. So there's the defensive end right here. He's standing up and he's out wide. We let him widen out sometimes when we're going to drop him. But he drops and realizes there's no action for him, right? There's no back out this way. There's no slant. So he starts working towards the rollout. That's one of my favorite plays of the year. He ends up getting a pick, running all the way across the field, living the dream that linemen don't usually get to live. And it's nice when you have undersized, faster DNs, you can be more effective at this kind of stuff. This kid's, our defensive end, he's played linebacker before, and we just needed him at end this year. So for a lot of teams I know with undersized ends that, you know, some of these guys are way better than you think at getting out there and covering. Here's the end zone view. Here's our end out wide. He drops, there's nobody. And that's when he comes into the screen there and picks it. And this was the one, 33 Mike will drop is the simulated blitz, the exchange blitz I called the most. It just was so much more effective to walk both guys up into A gaps because you really get the numbers. It looks like you're bringing 6. So here's another example of that. End zone view. So the 33, our tackles know they're both in 3 techniques. We're walking up both A gaps, dropping. Oh yeah, this is a single drop. We're just dropping the 1. So I like this clip. I threw it in here. If you watch our end that's dropping, we are just dropping 1. It's not a double drop. It's a single drop. If you watch him, he does a good job of getting his eyes out to recognize what route, just like a linebacker. He's getting into that curl window. And this is exactly our drill. So to rep this stuff, I had to bring up linebackers. So in our individual time, I'd put a cone down, have linebackers, lined up like they're blitz and A gap. And if, sometimes we show these guys, so they need to practice on taking one hard aggressive step, getting the heck out of there into their drop. And the drill for the defensive ends looks exactly like what Hunter's doing right now. So if you were to remove every other player from this field and just watch Hunter, the D end, this is the drill that I do to get defensive ends to practice dropping. They take the step, just like that. Now he's got his plant foot in the ground, and he's going to open his hips up and drive back out of there. And he's going to get his eyes on the nearest receiver threat. And then in the drill, I'll throw the ball and have him work on, like if it's doubles, we'll have him collision a receiver and carry him on an out route. Or sometimes we'll send the back out and we'll have him drop to a cone and work on watching a back out, but they don't go until the quarterback takes his hand, palm off the ball and throws that thing. But this is a great example of what it should look like for DNs dropping. That hard step, open, get your eyes. He wasn't involved in this one, but it was a good technique. This time we're doing the same look. We're showing 33, Mike will blitz. But we're showing one of the backers and blitzing one of the backers. Just a little change up, just maybe, I don't remember this one, if we knew which side the center was going to. I think that's what we were doing. We knew which way the center was going, so there's no need to waste that guy. Let's get our A-gap run through and get our backer out as well. So this one is Mike show, will blitz, double drop. And again, you can see Bryson, he's doing exactly what we do in our drill. Takes one hard step, steps, and now he's ready to plant off of that foot and bail out of there and get into his drop. Looking at our other end, you can kind of see, you can tell he feels really cool right now, which he should. He's a lineman pretending to be a linebacker. But these guys get so into it with I imagine they're making all the sound effects the linebackers make. He is out in space covering somebody, even though he's not, but they love it. DNs will just go nuts for this stuff. And every once in a while they'll throw it right to him. This one is the exact same blitz, but we're not doing 33 up front. We're doing a 22 with movement. So let's go to the end zone view. Most of the time when I call the double drops and bring two backers, it's out of a 33 because A-gaps are just trouble for O linemen. Yeah. But right now we've got 22, angle strong. So we're head up on guards. They're gonna move, and our linebackers need to understand that and blitz off of that movement. So it's 22 angle strong. Mike will blitz, double drop. 22 angle strong, double drop. And in this one, you never know who's coming free, but someone's gonna come free. You know that they're outnumbered as long as you get these tackles pass setting out on your dropping ends. So this defensive end, he's standing up. It doesn't look like he's rushing. That's the critique he's getting on this film. You've got to really sell it, even if you're standing. Make this guy think that you're coming. He takes a little stutter step and gets out of there, but it is enough to get this tackle to set to him. That's really what we're looking for. And now the guard has to choose. The guard chooses the backer. Both tackles come free and get a really big hit, a heavy hit on the quarterback. Here's some bad examples of dropping kids that are not prepared to tackle in space. And this is not a knock on the kids at all. This is 100% on me. So right now it's 33, Mike will double drop. Both linebackers are coming up, but watch this defensive end. He's going to drop, and he's in great position. We got exactly what we wanted. They thought the hot route was open to the back out, and I've dropped a defensive end out there. Hooray, we're all celebrating, but not really, because I have this guy go do indies when we're doing our tackling circuit out in space with our skilled guys. So now I'm asking this defensive end to understand that this should be a left shoulder tackle, low, eyes through the thighs, drive through it. He does not have the reps to do that. And this is what happens. So it was the right call. We got what we wanted, but this was the first year doing it too. This is 2 years ago. We just had not prepared these kids that were dropping for their jobs. So that's something we got better at this year. They're non-traditional pass cover guys, right? They're traditional pass rushers, these defensive ends. So when you drop them, make sure that they have reps at this. So what we do now is we drop to a cone, and then we work on like a bubble screen coming back in, or someone working back in towards you, so that these guys work on their leverage. They understand their inside out. What shoulder is that? Yeah. The blitz got home, and we forced a quick throw. I've just got the poor defensive end out there trying to tackle someone much faster without being ready. Here's another bad one. The DN doesn't do a bad job here, but needs to get his eyes inside sooner. We end up getting a big hit on this one. Here's the end that's dropping. The Mike's going to blitz. We're going to drop the end. That's not a bad job. I think it's the next one I've really labeled. All right, we can end on this one. This one's going to drive you crazy. So we have this team backed up on the goal line, and they, as a staff, we knew that they really like to screen on the goal line. They weren't afraid to run screens. So the call is 2-eye, Mike will double drop. So we've got, this time we're going to walk, instead of A gap mug look, we're going to walk up our backers in B gap. Yeah. But we're also dropping ends. So we're bringing 4, it looks like we're bringing 6. They run a screen pass.
Oh,
and
crap.
We've got our DN right there, and it's the same kid who's doing an amazing job. He was such a good player. He's getting a chance perhaps at Weber State this year. We're excited for him. But he's dropping out there. He even sees the screen coming. He recognizes it, but how many reps does he have working from a back pedal, breaking that, and then coming in and making a low shoulder tackle on somebody? None. And it shows.
Yep.
He's got 1,000 reps at squeezing and wrong arming and, edge rushing. That's what he does. Fighting reach blocks, but we didn't prepare him for this. So again, we had the right call, but he just wasn't ready. Wasn't prepared, sorry. But anyways, even with these bad examples, it was effective. Like, even with the first year we did this, the crappy job I did of preparing those kids, and it's not on Coach Too Hot. This was literally me, like, we're going to drop those DNs and, let them have fun. And I didn't tell the D-line coach how to prepare them. That's my job. That's a linebacker type of movement. And as the linebackers coach, I should have taken them, which I do now. We'll take those DNs and work this stuff. It was still surprisingly effective, where you create panic in the middle, overloading them. And I know this is a screen pass, but you can see their assignments here. They're outnumbered in the middle. You got guys setting to droppers. You're going to get people through when you walk up both backers into A or B gap. So you really only need those ends to pick up a back out or to help on those quick slants or screen plays. There's not a lot you have to go over in your individual drills with them. It's really just understanding what are the possible looks you're going to get.
Yeah.
So the last thing is just the drills we work are essentially walking up backers and dropping them out so they get practice on their reads from the line of scrimmage. And then now that I know how to do this a little better, we're taking defensive ends during the week and we're working on drops with them so that they understand if it's empty, what's the difference when there's a back in the backfield and there's not. My eyes can go right to this number 2 receiver. If there is a back, I'm looking to see if the back's working out. So we're just slowly getting better at it, but it's been worth it. Even with the lumps and like the learning that comes with it, it's effective to drop those defensive ends.
Well, Coach, I appreciate it. I said this was, very insightful. Seriously. So
yeah, good. It's something we're going to keep building on, and what we're going to get better at. I have my secondary coach here with me, is pairing our coverages
with it,
so that
okay,
our secondary knows when. Like right now, they don't know if we're bringing 4, 5, 6. And when there are times we bring everybody, right? To make that effective, you've got to walk up both A gaps and bring 6.
Yeah.
Otherwise, eventually they won't honor those ends. They're just going to know. So making sure that our secondary knows we're going to press. We've been burned a little bit where I haven't communicated it well with the coverage. We walk up and bring pressure in the middle, but there's too much space on the edge because we didn't change what we were doing.
Well, like I said, Coach, I think it's some good stuff, and like I said, I appreciate you coming on. Before we go, a couple things. One, make sure you follow Coach on Twitter. Reach out to him if you have any questions, want to see more film, etc. His Twitter bio, username, whatever you want to call it, is in the description, the bottom, underneath all the tags for the video, and then where he's located at and all that. So just scroll to the bottom. He's down there. And then 2, make sure you like, subscribe. Helps people find the video, helps people find the channel. That way we can kind of keep this thing going. Coach, again, thank you. And like I said, I appreciate everything you did today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is great. Thanks for getting these resources put together for us.